Main Street feels the pinch from China tariffs. Sandra Payne said she held out for as long as possible before raising her prices. The owner of Denver Concrete Vibrator, which manufactures equipment that strengthens and settles concrete for infrastructure projects, said tariffs finally took a toll on her business. Raising prices, Payne said she's tried to source locally and domestically, but many vendors disappeared after the recession, making relying on imports more of a constant. While cutting her step as a U.S. manufacturer, Payne has a clear message: tariffs are doing more harm than good. 4. Small U.S. business advocates and owners such as Payne. The National Federation, another recent poll from BizBuySell, an online business for sale marketplace, and found 43% say China tariffs will increase business costs, and of that group, 64% plan to increase prices to stay afloat. The poll also found that's the position Bill Skulish's Granite Tech Incorporated in Landenberg, Pennsylvania, finds itself in. Skulish testified before the International Trade Commission and spoke with the House Small Business Committee on the impact the trade war has had on business. He said he can know. Related video: U.S. Chamber of Commerce makes case against tariffs. The International Trade Administration says the extra duties, known as anti-dumping and countervailing duties, are there to protect American businesses being negatively affected by Chinese dumping. U.S. companies including Cambria Company, a Eden Prairie, Minnesota-based manufacturer of natural stone surfaces, petitioned the Commerce Department for relief from unfairly. Commerce. One positive for Skulish: a ruling on June 11 determined the imports would not be subject to retroactive duties. He said it's a relief. Meanwhile, Payne is bracing for more price instability. In fact, this.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.